Hello, English 221. This is your second video on revising the essay. First, a reminder that you click on grades over here in order to find your rough draft and see the comments that you got on it. And that is really the most important thing in terms of figuring out how to revise your essay. What I am going to do in this video is share with you the notes I took while I was reading all the rough drafts. So we're going to go to the Essay2 BS Goes Viral folder in Canvas. And here you have lots of stuff related to our whole unit on fallacies and BS going viral in the essay. And you can see I've already posted video number 1, and this is video number 2. So we are going to go to this document here called The 4 Steps for Revising Essay 2. And let me make it bigger. Okay, so one thing at a time. So again, these notes are based on your rough drafts. So I read them all, I took notes, I scribbled things down, and this is my advice to you based on reading your rough drafts. So revising step 1, read and think more, get smarter, learn new things. So I noticed for this first item here, I noticed a lot of people hadn't really read up on the big issues connected to your example. So you're starting with one example of BS gone viral. Many of you are starting with a PolitiFact or fact checker article about that piece of BS. And there's some background information in there, but you need to read up more. And what the big issues are depends on your topic. So for example, if you're doing a falsehood related to the gun control issue, then you need to read a few articles about gun control controversies and find out what people are saying. Or if you're doing a falsehood stated by Donald Trump, well, then you should look up Trump's falsehoods in general. Like, what kind of falsehoods does he state? What is his fact check record at PolitiFact? What kinds of things does he say? What kind of analysis have people done about that? So you need to research the big issues, because what I've found is that if you don't have a sense for the big issues, then your analysis of this particular falsehood is not going to be very good. Okay, second thing under revising step 1, rereading. So I think for both the midterm exam and for revising this essay, you should reread all the articles if you can, and at least reread most of them. And I want you to be looking for concepts you can use in analyzing your example of BS that you're writing about for this essay. So you will be reminded of things in those articles, and you'll get ideas for adding new analysis to your essay. Okay, revising step 2 is probably always the most important part. Clarify your overall argument, improve your thinking, focus, and organization. So first, study the comments on your rough draft carefully, have your video conference, and think. Also, I have a tip for the introduction. Some people have already asked me about the thesis for this essay. You might remember on essay 1, you had a very clear controversial question. Remember in essay 1, your question was Serafina right or wrong in crossing that border? And then your thesis was your answer. Serafina was right, or Serafina was wrong, or Serafina was partly right. This essay is really different. It's not asking you a controversial question. It's asking you to do an interesting analysis of some example of BS that went viral. So here's a new idea for you. Maybe for some papers, the thesis is not what it's all about. And I think that's true for this paper. It's just a different paper. So here's what I want you to do in the introduction. I want you to establish focus. And that's really your task. So you want to get your reader's mind on your topic, your major themes, and you want to establish focus on the particular example of BS that you are writing about. Don't do all the fact checking in the introduction. Don't give all the details. You want to introduce your theme, do a little warm up, and then instead of thinking, I'm going to state my thesis at the end of the introduction, I want you to think, I'm going to establish focus on the particular piece of BS that I'm analyzing. So it's a new way of thinking about an introduction. And if you think about it, every introduction establishes focus. You want to get your reader's mind on it. And if you have a thesis, that works because a thesis does establish focus. Next, organization tip. Do the basics first. Give background information and do the fact checking in the early body paragraphs, not in the introduction, in the early body paragraphs. And then all your deep thinking about it comes after that. So start with the simple stuff. What happened? When did it happen? Who said it? Who is it that said it? What was going on at the time? What did the fact checkers say? So do the most basic stuff first in the early body paragraphs, and then your crazy theory about what it all means, that's later. Okay? And I think a lot of people can improve your organization and make your essay more clear by doing that. Next, organization tip. Cut the cake into thin slices. Each body paragraph has one narrow specific purpose. This is one of the most important things you can learn about writing a long paper in college, is that each body paragraph is about something very small. It's about something very specific. Oftentimes, I see body paragraphs with 4 different points in them. You need to make 1 point in each body paragraph. And so something I can show you right now is that I wrote a sample body paragraph. So I'm going to go back to our Essay 2 module, and I'm going to show you this body paragraph. I'm not going to read it to you, so you can study it on your own, but I want to give you a peek at it right now. So this is one of the examples that you looked at in your handbook in the fallacies chapter. So Essay 2, sample body paragraph on confirmation bias. I noticed a lot of people have trouble explaining confirmation bias, so I wanted to give you a sample that will help you for the midterm exam, but also for your essay. So this is one of the examples from your handbook. It's in pages 35 to 39. I forget which page. So the idea is that you're going to organize very exactly so that each body paragraph is about one specific thing, and that's it, just one thing. So here's my sample body paragraph on confirmation bias. Notice that I introduce what I'm going to say in the first sentence. I'm going to tell you what the confirmation bias was and how it was working for this topic. And then I explain it thoroughly. And at the end of the paragraph, I'm still talking about confirmation bias. 1 point per paragraph. Okay? So you want to be thorough and slow and explain each point really well. So that's that. You can study that paragraph and think about how you want to write about confirmation bias in your essay, because I do think it's an important topic. All right, so I'm going to go back to the 4 steps for revising. Essay 2 folder. 4 steps for revising Essay 2. All right. So here we are in clarify. Notice that clarifying your overall argument is one of the most important steps for revising your essay. So I have a lot of advice here. So we were here, cut the cake into thin slices. And one more thought for you in clarifying your thinking. Probably your example of BS that went viral is not that interesting by itself. What's interesting is how it is an example of some larger issue or trend. So, for example, if you're examining a false statement made by Donald Trump, he has said many, many false things. And so what's really interesting about your example is how it fits into the bigger picture. And so that's why you really need to read up on the big picture. And I think you can make your paper much more interesting by really thinking about this and making that a big part of your essay. So, okay, revising. Step 3 is beef up your argument with more detail and more analysis. Most people need to make the essay longer, so that's step 3. And it really depends on your essay, so you have to look at the notes on your rough draft. But certainly a lot of people need to give more background information, more detail and description about your falsehood, plus do the fact checking thoroughly using your fact checker. Some people can expand with more research on the big issues. Some people can expand by using more concepts from the readings. You might remember the revising strategy of divide and expand that we talked about with essay 1. You want to explain each point thoroughly in a separate paragraph, and that will make your essay bigger and better. And then, of course, getting to the deeper layers. Exactly what you need for revising step 3 will really depend on what kind of comments you got in your rough draft. And so you can ask me if you want to follow up on that. And then finally, revising step 4 is cleanup time. And that has to do with grammar and spelling and that sort of thing, but also putting your paper in MLA format, making sure your citations are correct. I think I will do a separate video on citations. Some people are still doing in-text citations incorrectly. Okay, so that is my summary of how to revise this essay really well. And so I will go back to Canvas. And again, all of your revising essay 2 stuff is in this folder here, essay 2, BS Goes Viral. And that's it. Thanks.